Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the final episode of season 3 of the Rise and Glide podcast, brought to you by Paddleboarding. My name is Holly Pye, and usually I'm joined here with my co-host Maddie LeBlanc, but she's actually away having the time of her life in the Azores right now. So I'm joined here today with Paddleboarding main man, PL Dave, hashtag PL Dave, David Walker. Dave, great to see you on the podcast today. It's been a while since we've had you on the show. How are you doing?
Yeah, really good, thank you. It's nice to be back. It's nice to be the other side of the editing suite, I suppose. And yeah, the sun is out down in Cornwall again, so we're living life and having a grand old time.
Before we get into the episode with Tarryn King, obviously, which is who we're introducing today, just want to have a quick chat to you about the Paddleboarding Falmouth Bay Open, which is coming up in just a few days' time now. How's the prep going?
Yeah, really good. So we're like a week out now. Fortunately for me at least, we've been doing a lot less organising. GB Sup, as you're aware, has massively kind of matured over the last 3 or 4 years, and their events team have got really, really good at kind of organising things on the ground, and have got really good processes in place. So quite happily, we've just kind of let them kind of take on it, and we're just going to turn up and be in all the pictures, I think.
Awesome. Yeah, no. And if anyone's listening and doesn't know what we're on about, you've got to go back and check out the episode with Scotty Warren, director of GB SAP, where he talks all about kind of streamlining that kind of race directing process and how he's done that over the years. But yeah, so this is Paddleboarding's kind of flagship event, really. So it's going to be really
Yeah,
exciting.
home turf. It's our home bay. It's where everything started. If you're a paddleboarder user and you're turning up, you'll be on the sand that the idea was formed in 2014 or whenever it was. So over 10 years ago now. So yeah, it's a great place to paddle. It's if when the weather's good, it's lovely, nice and sunny. Should be really good conditions. When the weather's not so good, it provides a venue for some really exciting racing, and it can be quite challenging at times. But we've got great safety cover with Gilly Surf Life Saving, and yeah, it should be really, really achievable for anyone who's planning on turning up.
Yeah, come down and say hi if you're around. There's a couple of exciting things to mention as well. Firstly, it's the international selections for Team England and Team GB. Team GB for everything, the distance, the technical and the sprint, adults, juniors and prone paddleboarding as well, so that's super exciting. And what I also think is really cool is there's newly aligned international age grouping. So we have the open category, masters 40 plus, masters 50 plus, but in the juniors, sorry, this is a long old list of age categories, but in the juniors we've got the under 14s and under 17s, and actually juniors can enter free, thank you to Paddle UK for
Yeah,
this is
it's
this
really
is
cool,
good.
and also it means that we can crown national champions at those age groups as well. And obviously, you've been paddling on the circuit internationally over the last couple of weeks and months as well. And I know from some of the guests that we've had on the podcast, they've all been really kind of flying the flag for actually getting more juniors involved in racing, getting more kids involved. And you've seen it as well at these international events. Kind of young people need to come through. They need to kind of get involved in it. And it's places like this where they can just turn up, have a go. As you say, it's free. It's thanks to Paddle UK, and it's a really good opportunity for a fun event, alongside some of the best racers in the UK and internationally as well, who I believe are coming over.
Yeah, and I know for sure juniors are the way forward. The sport doesn't grow without kind of those roots from the bottom. And one of the most exciting things is the race that we were all at, Maddie, Taryn and I were at just this weekend. The overall winner in the women's of the distance and the technical combined, the overall winner was 15 years old from Italy, Sveva Sabato.
No way.
She
That's
just
awesome.
stormed it.
Yeah.
In the technical on the Sunday, she just flew straight through. She was beating everyone. So really, really exciting to see the juniors up and coming. I say exciting, also a little bit worried because, we're all getting older and they're just powering on through. So definitely come down and say hi at the event if you're around. It'll be really exciting.
One other thing that's actually probably really good to mention as well, if you're maybe not so much into racing or think that you're not ready to dip your toe in just yet, Yes, as you say, absolutely. Come down, have a watch, and if you want to get involved, get involved. But Aqua Paddle UK are also running a kind of novice event, which gives you an opportunity to kind of get a start line, get used to see what's happening on going around a course with other paddlers. They're really great events. They're all over the UK. And yeah, it's great to have one back down in Falmouth Bay. It's a great spot for it as well. So yeah, there really is going to be something for everyone across the 2 day event in a week's time. Also, excitingly, as you've alluded to, the episode coming up, you guys had a great conversation with Tarryn King, who you've been traveling around with a little bit. So you've actually got to know her really, really well as well outside of this episode. So I'm sure this is partly just the highlights of what that's been like. Taryn's clearly super talented, and she's been surfing, been competing. What is that? World Championship in longboarding? Is that right?
Yeah, she's been doing everything. No, Taryn is definitely a personal friend of mine, and I love her to bits. But she's also just a super cool paddler, super cool surfer. It was great to chat to her about a bit of everything, to be honest. But I think she might actually be the first sup surf guest that we've spoken to. I'm sure some of our other guests definitely do sup surf, but we had quite a long, in-depth chat about kind of how she got into it, and kind of the crossover between like sup racing, sup surfing, and also longboarding. She's a newly crowned longboard South African champion. She's an sprint sup world champion, and yeah, sup surf national champion too. So super talented, super competitive. She's raising a lovely family. She works really hard, and she's just an all-round great person. So it was a really awesome chat to have and kind of just hear her story. So hopefully everybody enjoys this episode, and let us know what you think. Send us a message. But before we get any further into our long ramble, here is our episode with Tarryn King.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another awesome episode of the Rise and Glide podcast brought to you by Paddlogger. My name is Maddie LeBlanc, and I'm joined here today with my co-host Holly Pye. And we have the awesome privilege of welcoming the one, the only Tarryn King today to Rise and Glide. For those of you who don't know Tarryn, she is just, I feel like, to me, an ultimate water woman. Truly, she's not just a champion in one sport. She is a multiple-time South African champion in longboarding, in stand-up paddleboarding. I'm sure the list goes on, but there's just too many accolades. I can't remember them all. So, Tarryn, welcome to Rise and Glide today. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for that awesome introduction, Maddie. And yeah, so happy to be here.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you here because, my goodness, I think you're probably our first South African guest we've been able to interview. And I think your part of the world, to me, is just so fascinating because in our sport, specifically stand-up paddleboarding, in which Holly and I also compete as well, I don't know about you, Holly, but I don't know any other South African stand-up paddleboarders. But also like the fact that you do compete in other disciplines like longboarding, I think it's just so fascinating. So I think to start off, I would love to know, like, how did you get into stand-up paddling and this world of water sports in general?
Yes. I mean, obviously in South Africa, the paddling community is much smaller in comparison to the rest of the world. We obviously had a big blow up in the sport, just like everywhere else. I think it was maybe back in 2010, 2011, when it was really like big in South Africa. And I've been surfing for a really long time, and obviously surfed before I paddleboarded. So naturally, like for us, water sports kind of like just ran through our family and our community. So when stand-up paddleboarding kind of came to South Africa, my stepfather got very involved in it. He had a store that he kind of had a brand, took over from a brand called Corban, which was like the core brand in South Africa with stand-up paddleboarding. And I ran the store for him. And because I came from a competitive surfing background, I think naturally the competitiveness just kind of filtered through the stand-up paddleboarding. And I got back. I obviously started off with the SUP surfing. I went to the ISA World Champs in Nicaragua, which I think was the second ever World Champs, with the first one being in Peru. And I was sup surfing then, no racing. Although I did do the prone technical race for points. I'd never been on a prone board in my life. So that was fun. And and then slowly went from the sup surfing into downwinding, which I absolutely loved. And the downwinding turned into a bit of racing. I used to hate paddling on flat water. It was really not fun for me. But the fitter I got and the more I started competing in flat water racing, I actually really started to enjoy it. And now I'm here.
And now you're
You
here.
you missed out one important part of that
Gosh.
journey. Tarryn is our 2018 ISA Sprint World Champion.
You Holly wouldn't let me live this one down.
Same, when Holly said we're missing something, I'm like, what are we missing? Because
Yeah.
I tried to do my homework. I tried to do my research. I like looked up every accolade of Tarryn's, and I'm like, this is too much. I can't remember all of it.
We keep it's funny because we're all, so for the listeners, Maddie, Tarryn and I, we're all kind of traveling traveling and competing alongside each other at the moment. We competed last weekend and we're competing in a few days' time together. And so we're at these events and people keep introducing Tarryn as like a world champion and
Oh my gosh.
yeah. And they're
was
like,
a
oh,
really
you're
long
the
time
one
ago."
that won that gold medal. And Taryn's like, no, it's so different. She's like, please forget about it. And too humble. So you missed in
Yes.
that introduction for
Okay.
yourself that you did win
am
a gold medal in a
2018.
world
Yes.
championships.
Yes, in China. It was amazing. It was a year just over or just under a year after giving birth to my son, Koa. Which reminds me that was nearly 8 years ago. Oh my goodness, that was a really long time ago. But yeah, it was an amazing experience. I mean, it's something that I will obviously never ever forget. And yeah, I am proud of it. So thank you, Holly, for for reminding me.
On
Oh
that
my gosh.
note, I'd be interested to hear like how it was getting back to competing and just not, paddling, doing everything and traveling, having just like given birth to your first child.
Yeah.
Let's just jump straight into the deep
For
stuff.
sure. Right in. I made the conscious decision of trying to keep as active and fit during my pregnancy, which I think helped me a lot. In the beginning, the first 3 months, especially with your first child, you are quite cautious, you are nervous, and that's totally fine. But I think like if your body's used to being active, used to doing the same sports regularly, I think if you carry on doing that through your pregnancy within reason, obviously not being exhausted all the time and not pushing as hard and trying to keep the heart rate a little lower than usual and not getting too hot and all those kinds of things, and make sure that obviously the doctor says it's okay. I think it's really important to keep fit and active. I feel like that's what really helped me bounce back after giving birth. Everything did feel a little bit harder initially. It took some time to really get into it, but my strength came back quite fast, and I really I put in a lot of time. And for that specific event, because I was pregnant the year before, I didn't actually qualify for the sup surfing. They had it at a time that I couldn't compete, so I didn't qualify, but I had qualified for the racing, not necessarily the distance, but the technical and the sprints. So it was one thing that I just kind of focused on. I didn't have like the sup surfing to focus on. I wasn't competing on the longboard at the time. So it was just the sprinting that I was focusing on, and that's all I trained for. So that also helped. Like it was my main focus, and I knew that that was my race and that was what I wanted to do well in. But yeah, it took a lot of time and dedication, but it paid off in the end.
Wow. Can you remind me, Tarryn, how many children you have?
2, I've got Koa, who is 7, he's turning 8 this year, and Isabella, who actually turned 3 yesterday. tough day being away and so far away from her. Yeah, thankfully we have video calls, and I was in on. Holly will tell you, I think we sang happy birthday to her on a video call 500 times. But it was, yeah, it was a hard day,
Oh,
but
that's
it's
so sweet.
she had a good day still, which is awesome.
Oh, well, I bet you, Taryn, like one day, especially too, as your kids continue to grow up, they're going to look back and they're going to be like, wow, that was so cool that on my third birthday, I got to call my mom who was competing overseas and setting a really good example, like not only for your kids, but for other athletes, for past and like future generations. I just think it's phenomenal what you're doing, truly. Like I don't think many
Oh,
women
thank you.
are doing what you're doing. So yeah, that's quite an accomplishment all in itself, which is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's nice to be reminded of that every now and again. And obviously, the girls this week have been reminding me every day because I have been feeling guilty. I think as a mom, you just naturally do feel guilty. But when you get reminded about things like that, it really does help. And I think it's much harder for me being away than for her. She doesn't even really mind. She's like, oh, I'm getting presents, I'm eating cake, I'm having a fun time. So yeah, thank you.
How do you?
Oh, sorry, Holly, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Maddie. I have a feeling we were going to ask the same question.
Well, I was just going to ask like how often with all of the different like disciplines that you compete in, so like alongside SUP, like longboarding and such, are you away from home quite often, or do you travel often throughout the year, or is it kind of just like you make one or two big trips a year? Like what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so each year is kind of different, but it just happens that over, I'd say, May to July, especially back home, there's quite a lot of national events that we do. So some might be in Durban, some might be in Cape Town, which is a short flight away. So I do travel a little bit, but it's only for like a day or two to each event. Just right before this, I was in at South African Longboard Championships, and that was in Jeffreys Bay, which is obviously outside of Cape Town, but we made it a family trip, so it doesn't seem too bad being away. If everyone's there with you, my husband also competes on the longboard, so we kind of just turn it every year. We turn it into a family trip, and it makes it a little easier because now that I'm here, I've kind of been away from home for when I get home, it will be almost 4 weeks, but I've only been away from the family for 2. So we try and like just balance it out a bit, and that makes it a little bit easier.
Oh, that's fascinating. That's actually really cool to know that. I think yeah, in our sport specifically for stand-up paddling, it is really cool that we do have so many moms. Like Seychelles, we have Jenny Colmbach, we have Lina guide us from Canada. Um, but it's neat to see how they all do it differently, or like maybe they'll travel
I
just
juggle it.
yeah, absolutely. I read an article a long time ago about Lina with like her first child. I think like breastfeeding during like an ultra endurance paddling
Between
event.
heats and like, yeah, I was doing that when I went to China for the sprints, like between heats, I was breastfeeding. I was still breastfeeding Co at the time. So yeah, you just make it work. And I think like I'll never forget, someone said to me when I was pregnant, because I wasn't ready to, I wanted to have a baby, and it was all planned, and I was married, and my life was kind of going according to plan, but I wasn't ready to give up competing. And someone said to me like, but you don't need to. You need to make sure like your baby fits into your lifestyle. So don't let your lifestyle change because you're having a baby. Just let the baby fit into your lifestyle. And that's exactly what Tom and I did. And he traveled the world with us for that first 2 years. He came everywhere. He was at, both of them were actually at ISA World Champs in France last year or the year before. Was it last year?
2023.
Uh, oh, wow. Yeah. So nearly 2 years ago. Um, it goes so quickly. Yeah, and they've just fitted into our lifestyle, and you just make it work if you really wanted to.
I love that perspective. I think, I mean, I'm a younger woman than you, but I still hear in my generation and Holly's generation of like, oh, like there's so many sacrifices that come with like being a parent, and and especially a mom. And hey, we're all females on this podcast, and it's just like,
Yeah.
I don't like that narrative. I don't like that societal norm. I feel like that's still kind of put out there as like it's all this sacrifice and like you have to change your life because of a baby. And it's just like, no, I think I like the perspective you have on it.
For
I think
sure.
that's cool.
Do you find like day to day at home when you're not competing, like how does family life kind of, or how does surfing and training and everything else, how does it fit around, or how do you kind of make family life fit around that and make that fit around your family life? Is that hard or
Yeah,
harder than it was
having
before
it.
you had kids?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a little bit more challenging when you've got kids, and also when you're working. It's not paddling and surfing are not a full-time thing for me. Um, but having one was a bit easier. Having two is a lot harder. The juggle is real. I often have to make sure I'm just the first one up in the morning, and I go to gym or I try and train before they've even woken up, and I'm like walking in the door, and they just slowly starting to wake up by like 6 or 6:30 a.m. And if I don't do it that way, I'm constantly on the back foot the whole day, and I'm worried about, oh, I've still got to get my training session in, or I haven't done this, or I haven't done that. So I do try fit it in the morning so it's done, and then it doesn't really matter what the day happens. I mean, often I can wake up in the morning and one of them are sick, and then I'm with them all day, and there's no school, and then I don't get a training session in. But that's just, you've got to just adapt to those. Like you've just got to be able to be more flexible, I guess. And yeah, I just try and make a plan wherever it's possible. Like if I only have an hour in the day, then I only have an hour in the day, and I'll either go to gym or I'll paddle for an hour, or I'll go and surf if I've got a surf event coming up. But yeah, it's a juggle, and it is hard, but you make it work if you really want to make it work. And try fit everything in. Yeah.
Absolutely. You touched on it briefly just there. Could you describe to us a little bit more of how you structure your training, depending on like what events you may have, like how that looks for you?
Yeah. So at the beginning of last year, I, for the first time ever, got a coach, which was amazing. Chris Talker, he is from Sub Training. He changed my paddling. He put programs together for me that I could be held accountable for, which was really nice for me, because often I would be like, oh, I'll just go paddle tomorrow. It's fine. I'll have to skip today because I'm running out of time. But just knowing that you've got someone tracking your progress, you find the time and you make the time. So I followed a training program with him really closely last year. I was focusing more on solely paddling, so it was a little bit easier. Whereas this year, he's put programs together for me, but I've been a little bit more flexible. I have been surfing a little bit more, leading up to some events that I've been doing back home that have been quite big events. And I've still got some more coming up when I get home now. So I've done that, and then I've also been going to gym quite a bit. So I'd say I'd be paddling between 4, maybe 5 times a week, gymming for 4 to 5 times a week, and then trying to surf in between that too. So yeah, just trying to fit it all in, and also making sure that it's kind of balanced, is important for me. Yeah. Trying to fit it all in is the main priority.
How does that kind of preparation differ to when you were mainly sup surfing? Because I remember, I know you were doing some of the like racing events too, but I remember doing, or going to ISA competitions where you would do the sup surfing and the racing, which must have been super tiring. But like if you have, if you're often kind of stand up race training, but you have like a sup surf event coming up, how does your do you still do structured training, or are you just trying to keep fit? Are you trying to surf as much as possible? Like how does How does
Yeah,
that go?
so when I was besides the 2018 after having Koa, when I was kind of doing both the sup surfing, competing in the sup surfing and the racing, my training was really different. I gymmed maybe twice a week. I surfed as much as I could. I would, whenever there were waves, I'd just get on my surf sup and just surf, surf, surf. I mean, I guess the more time you spend in the waters, you're going to be just getting better that way. And then my training, I didn't paddle on flat water, like I said before. I really didn't enjoy it, or even open ocean besides the odd downwind. But all I was doing was downwinds when there was wind and ins and outs training. Now, I don't know, a lot of people have different ideas of in and out training, but where I stay is it's a beach, a sand bottom beach, and sometimes when there's big swell, it can be breaking maybe 250 to 500 meters out, and I would just paddle through the waves as hard as I could, and then surf back in, and do like 5Ks of that, and it made me really really strong. I haven't actually done a lot of that training in a while, and I feel like it could really benefit me. And the reason I haven't done it is just because I don't have the time. It takes a bit more time, like, loading a board, going down to the beach, sup surfing, then paddling. Whereas, like, I live right in front of a lake. And if I'm pressed for time, I literally just hop down to the lake and on my board for 45 minutes to an hour and I'm done. But that's a really, really good way of training. The resistance makes you super strong going out through the waves. And then obviously having the skill surfing in is great.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. It's so funny. I feel like I'm honestly in that exact same boat when I'm back home in Canada. It's like literally the closest body of water to my house is flat water. It's 5 minutes away. So if I'm pressed for time and if I have a long paddle, like if I have a long session, it's just so easy for me to drive 5 minutes to the water, stay on the flat, get in the fitness, and then just come back. But sometimes on the Great Lakes we will have waves, and so those are the days when it is good to paddle out, because just like you said, like having that resistance and the balance training, it does
Yeah.
so much. Especially, I mean, well, all three of us right now, currently, for our listeners, like, we're in Spain and we're getting a bit of everything. Like, there's bump, there's chop. I think we had some wind swell a little bit last
Yep.
week. So yeah, that's
And I
actually
can
really
feel
cool.
that. I can feel that I've been training on flat water. It's such a big difference because it's like roles have reversed. Like I was the last person to want flat water. I was always happy in the ocean and I still love the ocean and it is still a lot more fun. But I'm actually more comfortable on flat water now. Holly and I had a training session and Jenny yesterday and Bree as well yesterday and then today. But today specifically was glassy, glassy, glassy. And I felt so good. I felt so strong. Whereas on a race that we had on the weekend that was open ocean, a little bit bumpier, side wash, like you got a bit of everything. I wasn't as happy as I was on flat water. So I can definitely feel that difference that I've had training in the ocean versus training on flat water.
That's really
Absolutely.
interesting. I feel like I've been the other way. So where I paddle at home, we have a river close by, but it's so wide and it's so rarely wind free that it's always choppy. But most of the time I do paddle out onto the ocean. Um, and I'm not super fast, but I'm able to balance in the chop a lot, not so much recently, or I thought I was good at it. And I've been purposely trying to paddle more often in flat water on like smaller rivers to try and improve my technique and like get the quality if you're doing like certain strict intervals where it's like hard to do that on choppy water. But like I find my technique is worse when I've been doing a lot of ocean stuff. Just because you can't, you
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 don't have
can't get
time
your
to
body in
think
like the
about
perfect.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's never perfect, but it's nice to get a balance of both, I think.
Yeah. I'm
Mm.
curious, Tarryn, like, what is your perspective, having competed in multiple sports, in multiple different world championships too, like an ICF and ISA? what do you feel is like, how do I want to phrase this question? It's like, I'm just so curious to know like your opinion on our sport of stand-up paddling and just how diverse it is. And like, I don't want to say like inconsistency, but maybe just like the difference of how unique every event is compared to one another, or like, the ICF being now it's kind of seeming like they're steering in this direction of going to more flat water. We had Sarasota last year, World Championships is in Abu Dhabi this year. The ISA still kind of caters to more like surf technical racing. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just curious to know, like, what are your opinions on that?
So good question. ISA for me, I really love ISA just because it feels like it's a team sport when stand-up paddleboarding is actually not really a team sport at all. But because you're representing your country, there's no prize money. It's more of like a prestigious event, getting your medal. Um, you train as a team. Well, sometimes, but most of the time you train as a team, you stay together. There's a lot of like good camaraderie. Uh, and I like that. I like having like my people with me, especially when I'm traveling. And I just feel like you feel motivated, you feel supported, and it's a very prestigious event. Whereas ICF is very, it can be a team sport, but it's more individual. Um, I think it's great what they're doing. I think the events that they put on are incredible. They're always very organized. They are more of like a flat water racing style, which is great. Like, I mean, like I've just said, I don't mind that anymore. Um, but obviously with ISA having the sup surfing and the racing is first prize. And I mean, I would love to still be competing on sup surfing. So if I have the opportunity to get to an ISA event where I know it's going to be held in good waves, I'm there. I will do anything to be there. Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's cool. Both of them are really great organizations. And yeah, I think it's great for the sport because they both have very different outlooks in a way, yet same, like kind of streamlined to kind of the same goal, but they are very different events.
Mhm. Absolutely. They definitely are. They're very unique in one another.
Yeah.
But that's so cool though that you mentioned about the ISA and it feeling more like a team sport. So what does your South African team look like when you go to an ISA World Championships?
So we have quite a small team. We've got a small group of paddlers back home. We've never been a huge paddling community, but back in the day, we were obviously much bigger than we are now. It's kind of like the diehards that are left, which is great. But most of the time, I mean, Cam Tripney, he was junior world champion. He still competes as much as he can. He's training really hard now for some events towards the end of the year, which is really awesome. Our sup surfing, my husband Tom is an incredible sup surfer. He's an incredible waterman, actually. And he's made he made the final at Cloudbreak actually in Fiji for ISAs, which was amazing. Amazing to watch him in really big waves. So he's always part of the team. Jasper Johnson. We've got a core group of people that are they're still on their boards all the time. And it's the same people that kind of compete most years. Yvette Blanche is amazing. She is in the 50 plus category actually, but she still competed in open in France, which was really cool. Yeah, there's a lot of talent. It's just trying to keep the sport alive back home, and trying to keep those events going and trying to also build it from a junior perspective and try and get the younger kids involved and nurture them to getting on boards and getting fitter and faster in the water.
It sounds like South Africa is small but mighty. or the team is small but mighty. You have
Yeah, for
a
sure.
few world champions mixed in. And yeah, super cool. How do you try to keep the community alive back home? Like, I know you've said before you have your SUP squad. And yeah, what do you, not just you personally, but as a community, what do you do to try and get more juniors in and try and encourage more people to paddle when it's so hard to compete outside?
So we've got a community. Well, it's called SAPSA. It's driven by Anya Berger and Caroline Gill, and they do such an incredible job trying to put on events and get sponsorship and help the athletes and just kind of, like I said before, keep the sport alive. So they are continuously working. We've got a really, really big surf ski. That's the word. I was going to say sea kayak. Surf ski community back home. And they've got events all the time. So they're constantly trying to get subdivisions within those surf ski events, which is really cool. There's often a handful of subs that show up, but there's 150 surf skiers. For us, like, we still being recognized. I mean, they all sitting down on the water and we standing up, sticking out like sore thumbs. They definitely know that we're there, which is really important for us. Like, so, it's really amazing that we are, well, Anya and Caroline are constantly trying to get us in those events. Which is cool. So that's one way that we kind of try and do it. We've got time trials, which happen twice a week on a Tuesday and a Thursday evening. I know that Nick Lowe really pushes, and Steve Tripney actually push the Thursday night time trials, which is really awesome. And getting their kids involved, getting their kids' friends involved. That's kind of how you try and introduce it slowly but surely. I have a sub squad that I take out that I've actually combined with two other ladies that I taught to stand up paddleboard, who have now tried to create a community of ladies that sup. And we do a combination of sup surfing and kind of flat water or open ocean training. It was 3 times a week, and we do it twice a week now in the winters. So that's an awesome community to be part of. We teach people on a Wednesday and a Friday morning, and get them out in the water and just, it's, for me, I'm so passionate about it. I've been doing it for years. I mean, I coached surfing before I started coaching stand-up paddleboarding. And I've got such a passion for it that it just kind of comes naturally in a way. I don't ever think like, oh my gosh, I've got to go and coach this person, or oh my gosh, I've got to do this, or I enjoy it so much that I just want to encourage more people to come do it. So I think, like, if you just keep a positive vibe, if you're just consistent and you're trying to get as many people in the water and you're showing up at events and just trying to keep everyone excited about the sport and get them on the water and just introduce them to it. I think that's the best way for us to try and grow the sport in South Africa.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, Tarryn, because I mean, I don't know about you two, but what I've seen here, spending some time in Spain, I feel like this is why we're seeing an absolute powerhouse of like this storm of U18s and U15s and U12s. Like, all these kids are coming out of the yin yang over here because
It's amazing. And they've got this massive, strong community that they are training with day in and day out, pushing each other. Whereas, like, I paddle on my own at home. I know Holly paddles on her own, and I'm sure you paddle on your own too, Maddie. Like, I know Jenny paddles on her own. It's really hard. It's really, really difficult.
do you think, like, country geography, maybe context wise, do you think it's like an access to water? Like, maybe is there any barriers to entry, or maybe climate? Like, what do you think might be influential
No,
factors to that?
I personally, for South Africa, the boards are very expensive. They cost a lot to get them there. They cost a lot to buy them, and you can get a really cheap recreational inflatable stand-up paddleboard that every South African family that goes away in December and January that they want to use on a camping trip in a river, they can buy for like a third of the price a race board. And the community, the amount of people, like our population basically is much smaller than the rest of the world, or like bigger continent, like the whole of Europe. You've got so many countries that have their own communities, and it's all really close. Whereas South Africa specifically is very isolated. We're right down at the bottom, and there's not many places besides Cape Town and Durban that paddle. Like the inland countries cities don't really paddle. Johannesburg has one or two, a small community of flat water paddling, but I think it's the volume of people. There's just a lot more people. It's definitely the access that we have to boards and paddles. And yeah, it's just really hard. It is. It's hard.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, really, when I think of South Africa, like I definitely don't think of stand-up paddleboarding. I think of Jordy Smith. I think of all my favorite surfers I watch on the World Surf League because I love that. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
quite fascinating to hear.
Mm.
That those two major cities are like really the only places that people would paddle. Um, and I think I forgot to ask this earlier, but where in South Africa specifically are you? Like, I know you said, I think Cape Town's like an
Yeah.
hour flight. So are you
Yeah.
more
So I'm in
inland?
Cape Town. I'm in Cape
You,
Town. No, I'm at
okay.
the southernmost tip. So South Africa comes down into like a little point, and I'm like on the point. Like I literally can't get further away from anywhere if I tried.
Okay, totally now the surfing. Yeah, okay. It all makes sense. You were born to surf. Were you
Yeah.
like a surf before you could walk kind of kid? Is that
Oh, I wish. I wish. I mean, my kids are like that, but I'm not. I actually only started surfing when I was 14, so quite late.
It's
Yeah.
so funny whenever you talk to a surfer and they always like they say that, like in stand-up paddling, it's like, oh, like, like that would still be so like
So
young.
young, so young. Yeah.
But in
It's
surfing,
like,
it's
oh, I
like,
started
yeah.
paddling when I was like 25, but surfing, it's like kind of old.
That's right. Yeah. It's like if you weren't on a surfboard before you could walk, it's like, what were you doing with your
Yeah,
life? How
exactly.
how did you get into surfing? How did that start for you?
So I actually, my uncle and my grandfather they surfed their whole life. So it's quite strange. I was always on the beach, but I never was surfing. And my best friend in junior school and then high school, she had an older brother, and her older brother was part of the surf team we both went to the same high school, and grade 8, standard 6. So we were like 13. And her brother was part of the surf team, and they would go surfing every Friday as like a school group. And we just started going with them. And yeah, I started off shortboarding with her, and we started surfing together. That was the end of it. I kind of did things a little bit backwards because generally you start on a bigger board and then go down onto a short board. I started on a short board and then longboarded. I actually only started longboarding when I was like 18.
Oh. And
Yeah.
then how did that transition into your just national awesome badassness of being a South African longboard
Yeah.
champion?
So I've always been very competitive. And I was competing, but not very seriously on the shortboard when I was doing like little fun grom comps, local grom comps at my local beach on a shortboard. And then I went to England for a year, believe it or not. I was in London. And that was right after school. I was like 17 or just 18. And I spent a couple of months in London working, having a bit of a gap year. And the last month and a half I spent in Newquay in Cornwall. And I took out a longboard, and I was like, oh, this is quite fun. Because I hadn't surfed in such a long time, I needed something a little bit easier than a shortboard. So I took the longboard out, and then when I came home, I just kind of transitioned onto a longboard and started competing. I did the trials to compete in our nationals, and then I think I've missed maybe 1 or 2 nationals since then.
What made you pick up the paddle, like to start to switch, not switch, but to add SUP surfing as
This
well
is a
as
funny story.
regular surfing? Because a lot of people who surf, like prone
Don't
surf,
like paddleboarders.
don't like paddling. So what made you pick up the paddle?
So Gary, my stepfather, he, like I said, he owned a stand-up paddleboard store and Corban. And he was the only one of the very few that were putting on big events, SUP events in South Africa. And when him and my mom met, I went to go and support. It was the South African Championship that he was putting on. And you didn't have to qualify for those championships. Anyone could just enter at the time. And he obviously knew that I surfed and I competed surfing. And Gary is always all about, just give it a try, you'll be fine. It's like he was a big runner back in the day, still runs a lot, but I was like, oh, should I do a half marathon? I've never run further than like 5 kilometers. He's like, yeah, you'll be fine. Just go run. Like, okay. Anyway, so went to go support this event, the South African Championship event, where like everyone's been SUP surfing for ages. No, they're still on like 9-foot boards because there was no such thing as like small little boards back then. And he came to me when I arrived and he said, Tarry, you are in the next heat. There was a cancellation. And I was like, what? I was like, it's like 4 foot out there. I've never been on a SUP surfboard before. I don't even know how to paddle. And he was like, nope, you're in the next heat. I've put your name down. And I was like, oh, okay. And off I went. I got absolutely smoked. Oh my gosh. It was terrible, but I did it. And then I just kind of practiced every now and again when the waves were really small at my home break. I'd take out a bigger board or, just play around. And then before I knew it, I was going to Nicaragua to compete at the ISA Worlds.
Wow.
That is so cool because, I mean, Holly, yeah, you touched on it. Like anyone that I know that's come from a prone surfing background, they are like, I don't want to be called a kook, so I am not going to touch that paddle.
And you know
But
what?
I mean,
Back
I'm super
home,
biased.
home, it's exactly the
No,
same.
yeah, go
People
ahead.
have so much to say about the stand-up paddleboarders. They have a lot to say. But for me, I love it because I'm like, I'll get on a longboard and I'll go for a surf. And like, I'm kind of like, people in the longboard community. And then I'll get on a SUP and I'll SUP and I compete on a SUP and a longboard. So people just have to deal with it. And I mean, I think like everyone has something to say about some sort of craft. Like I can paddle out at my home break that is always crowded on my SUP, whether it's a race board or whatever, and someone will have something to say about it, like, oh, that board's so big or whatever. And I'm like, but you sitting out here on your longboard on a 9.6 longboard without a leash. What if you lose your board and your board comes and hits someone in the head? Like, it's the same thing. Like, you can't not like somebody because of the craft that they're on. I get it. Everybody needs to have surf etiquette, but that's got nothing to do with the craft that you're on. So it's quite a big topic, and like we often have discussions about it. But in the big scheme of things, like I just go with the flow. And if you have something to say about it, it's tough.
I think it looks easier than it is as well. Like, I think a lot of surfers who have never tried SUP surfing think it's like, yeah, you're on a big board, you don't need to pop up, you're already up. And, if we just did a switch, if you switch boards with them, you'd be able to surf and they would try to stand up and wobble and
For sure.
not be able to stand
And
up,
I'm
not be able to catch a wave. Like,
also a lot more conscious when I'm on my SUP because it does have that like negative connotation around it. I'm like, my surf SUP is like, it's 7.4. It's small. But I will purposely, like, because our local break is always very crowded and everybody paddles for everything. Like, it just is what it is. And it's to be expected out there. I paddle out on my longboard and I will paddle for a wave, paddle back out, like paddle for a wave, and I feel a bit bad sometimes. But when I'm on my SUP, I'm so aware of like doing that. I will sit and I will wait and I'll be patient and I'll wait my turn. So like if people do ever have anything to say, I'm like, no, I'm really conscious about it when I'm on my sup. I know I wait my turn. I know I don't snake people or paddle around people. Um, so I guess if you're just aware of it, it's usually okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think as long as the etiquette's there, and then
Mm,
like, it's so funny to hear you say that, Taryn, because I'm the exact same way. Like, whenever I'm on my subsurf, I am just like a little more conscious. I'm a little more aware of like not making a mistake or being super like even more kind to people than I would be like normally if I'm just, yeah, chilling. Like on the Great Lakes, I'm on like a freaking 10-foot foamy, just having fun, like it's not a big
yeah,
deal.
yeah, for
um,
sure.
but yeah, it's crazy. Like I used to live in California, and that was one of the only places I've ever been to in the world. I'm sure there's other places like this, but it was one of the only places where there was a designated spot in the water of
I
like,
remember that so clearly when I was there too.
yeah, the
Yeah.
San Onofre or San Onofre. I can't
Yeah,
remember how you
yeah.
say it.
There and where was PPG?
Oh, well, Dana Point Baby Beach, or no, not Baby
Point,
Beach.
Dana Point, Dana Point,
Shoot. Yeah, I
Dana
can't.
Point.
I'm
It was
losing
the
the name of that
same.
beach, but yeah,
I think it was
yeah.
Dana Point. It was the same thing, and they had signs. You had to be on like the far side of the drain pipe or something like that, and there was a sign, and I was like, wow, this is new. Like we don't have that at home.
Yeah,
They take it seriously.
they
Mm,
do. They literally do. Like I saw a guy once, like when we were at San O, that like same thing. I think it was like the beach volleyball nets kind of marked the line, and same thing. There was a sign that was like sup surf this way, and I think the longboard break was called like Dog Patch or something like that, where people could chill. And there was a sup surfer that was like kind of creeping the line, and a longboarder just was like, "Dude, get out of here!" And I'm like, "Oh my god!" Like he's like nowhere near snaking your wave. Like, chill, bro, chill. Like, come on. Ugh. So
yeah,
it's just, yeah, it's cool to hear your perspective of someone who does both and competes in both
yeah.
at a very high and serious level. To hear you say that, because I think that should be the standard.
Mm. Yeah, it's really interesting. What advice would you give somebody who was wanting to give it a go from scratch, who had never surfed before? Maybe they were familiar with paddling, but hadn't
Yeah,
ever
the sup
surfed or
surfing.
surfed. And
Mm.
yeah, because so we have in England, and I'm sure maybe other parts of the world as well, we have a lot of people who we have a lot of inland waterways, so people who paddle on canals, lakes, reservoirs, rivers, and maybe they go to a race. It's a beach race. It's fairly calm, but there's some small waves, and they're taking their raceboard in and out. And it's something totally new. It's so different to a canal. Or maybe they want to go on holiday and have fun and, try sup surfing. What advice would you give to them to like start from scratch?
So I think the biggest thing for me is I get really, like personally, I get really frustrated if I just can't get it right. And often conditions play such a massive factor in that. So like I postpone my coaching sessions sometimes if conditions are really just not favorable, depending on what level the paddlers are that I'm taking out. Um, so I think like just make sure that you go with somebody that you trust that can tell you like today is the perfect day to learn to paddleboard. You are not going to get like 3 to 4 foot waves bashing you off your wave, off your board, left, right, and center for your entire session. Because like already paddling through the surf is just as difficult as catching a wave. So if you've got big waves that you've got to get through, it can be really intimidating. It can really throw you off. So I think like conditions are really important. Try and make sure that the wind's not too strong, the waves aren't too big, and then just someone that knows what they're doing. I think going out with somebody that can teach you and guide you and give you the basics. Obviously not if you are a paddler already on flat water, how to how to paddle already, but paddling into waves and getting that balance I mean, the amount of times that I've seen people run off the back of their board when they're paddling for a wave is like, I mean, it happens every time because you're not used to that momentum pushing you forward. So I think like just getting someone that can teach you and guide you in the right direction would be probably the first advice.
And maybe equipment too. I guess it's important
Yeah,
to
the
have
right board is,
a
don't try
board
go on like
and
a 7-foot board on your first attempt.
I'll never forget the first time I tried a sup surf. It, funny enough, was in China, and it was some actually. Oh man, Holly, I don't remember her name, but it was somebody from like Great Britain, like, and they were like, "Oh, you could try my starboard," and I was like, "Okay." Oh my god, I could
probably
not balance on
Marie.
this thing for the life of me. Like the volume was so low, and I didn't know any better, so I'm just jumping on this thing, and I was like, "Oh my god, yeah, couldn't stand." And it was like flat,
Was
like
that
there
in
was like
2018, Maddie?
that was in China as well. That was my first time at a world championship, and
there. Wow.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm like laughing hearing you talk about it because I'm
Amazing.
like, oh yeah, that was my very first
Yeah.
international world competition. Just got completely smoked, completely humbled. Did not know anything back then, but yeah, I think that's really
Amazing.
sound advice. I think definitely, guys, get on like a good big whopper, like nice big board
Yeah.
that'll help
10
float
by
you.
34.
10 by 34, 300 liters. No, I'm just kidding. That's a lot of volume.
No,
Oh,
that's really good
awesome.
advice. Thank you for sharing that. And if anybody has any questions for you after hearing the conversation we've had today, if they're a new mum wanting to get back to paddling, maybe that's somebody that wants to get into sup surfing, maybe it's someone who has some questions about your race training, or something completely different, where's the best place for them to find you?
Awesome. They can just drop me a DM on Instagram. It's underscore Tarryn King underscore. So you're more than welcome to ask me any questions that you might have. And I'd love to answer.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today, and good luck at the race at the weekend. It's in Barcelona. By the time this episode is released, the race will have been and gone. So yeah, people listening can check back and see how you did.
Awesome. Thanks so much for
uh,
having me, guys. It's really so amazing and so lovely to chat to both of you.
Well, you're awesome, Tarryn. We love you. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Rise and Glide podcast. It means a lot.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you so much for tuning in and for listening to this episode of the Rise and Glide podcast brought to you by Paddleboarding.
We just have two small things to ask you before you close this episode. The first one, if you enjoyed it, please leave us a rating and a review. It really makes a big difference. And the second one is to go to the App Store and download Paddlogger today.
We can't wait to see you on the next episode.